Live from Keene, New Hampshire, the most watched TV news show in Keene, the Keene Weekly News with Mark Edgington. Coverage of local and national events starts now.
Good evening. My name is Mark Edgington. This is the Keene Weekly News. Today is December the 7th, 2007. Thanks for watching. For those of you that might be confused that this is in fact a news program, well, it's sort of a news program. I talk about the news. But don't think for a second I'm out there trying to pretend that I'm unbiased when in fact I am, because I'm darn biased. And then again, so is everybody that's giving you the news these days. I'm sorry. I mean, that's the way it is. The people that are talking to you about the news are biased and they're pitching their particular philosophy. It's not like it's anything new. Walter Cronkite in 1968 said we needed to get out of Vietnam. Sorry. Unbiased newsman, it's a myth. I, on the other hand, not lying to you. All right. This is going to be a mostly presidential episode of the Keene Weekly News. As you know, it's going to be between 4 and 5 weeks, I believe, that we in New Hampshire are heading off to the polls January the 8th to decide who the new president of the United States of America is going to be. Well, at least who the people that are going to be the main people in the primary. On the Republican side, apparently Romney came out just yesterday, or today, was talking about his Mormon faith. He was answering some of the hard questions on his Mormon faith. Well, please don't think for a second that I care anything about at all what Romney thinks as far as what's right and what's wrong, what religion is. I believe that he has a pretty good grasp of what is right and what is wrong. He doesn't agree with me philosophically, but who does? The fact is, as far as I'm concerned, most of religion's a bunch of gobbledygook, stuff taken by people that had overactive imaginations, fed through people that were had overactive gullibility glands, and it's just spread from there. The person that bothers me more when it comes to religion isn't Romney. Romney's not out there stumping for his religion. His religion is unlikely, even if he became president, to spread far and wide. I mean, maybe it'll do a little bit for the Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, or whatever they call themselves, when they send their little 20-year-old boys in ties to your door to knock on and talk to you about religion. But it's not going to do a lot. I mean, the America's not going to be converted to Mormonism. Mormons aren't going to get some kind of preferential treatment or anything like that. The guy who scares me is Huckabee. Now, when it comes to religion, this guy is stumping for one of the more powerful religions in America, the evangelical Christian movement. Why? Don't ask me. They're not the most populous of religious groups in America. That would probably go to the Protestant type folks. The Muslim, or not Muslim, Methodist, Lutheran, Presbyterian sect. By the way, most of our presidents, by far, have been Presbyterians. I think we should look at the Presbyterians sect and what they're doing. Why do they have so much power, those Presbyterians? I don't know. I've been to plenty of Presbyterian churches, and they don't seem to have any kind of high power ritual, but it always bothers me. Either way, the guy who bothers me, Huckabee, he said on a national debate, of which there have been many, that he believes every word of the Bible is true. He is a biblical literalist. Now, how a person can live in 2007 and be a biblical literist is completely beyond me. It's completely beyond me. But I suppose they should be allowed to believe that. I don't want to take anybody's religion away from them. But I definitely will not support somebody who believes that every word of the Bible is true for president. Look, if you believe that the Noah flood happened, you aren't just gullible. You can't do math. Now, let me go over the Noah flood story to you real quick. And I'm not going to do it from the, I'm not going to read from the text. I'm just going to overview it for you. A guy who was, I believe, 500 plus years old at the time. Now, remember, the Bible's literally true, according to what Mike Huckabee says, which means that I'm supposed to believe it. God said it, I'm supposed to believe it. So in fact, Noah lived 500 and something years. No, you don't get to go back and play with the calendar and say, well, what I meant were months or seasons or where. No, the Bible says years. That means Noah was 500 and something freaking years old at the time. All right, so it takes him 100 years to build a boat. A boat, 100 years. Now I imagine it would take close to 100 years for a 500-year-old man to build a boat that is 3 football fields long. This boat is huge. It's 3 football fields long. It's made out of gopher wood. That's not a kind of wood. That is a process of wood. It's like wood glue. I don't even know how to describe it. It's big, huge pieces of blocks of wood, ground up and then put into glue. This stuff is strong, according to, by Iron Age standards. And you'd have to be living in caves, pretty much, to believe a story like this. But, okay, now this boat isn't just 3 football fields long that Noah's building at 500 years old, over 100 years. It's 5 stories tall. In this gigantic gopher wood boat, God directs animals. They must have migrated all over the world because there's all different kinds of animals. I mean, this was 4,000 years ago that this occurred with Noah, which is only, 8 of his lifespans. God got all the animals of the world. That means the polar bears to the sloths, everything. Because, look, you're not talking about the amount of... There's not enough time for these things to evolve into a bunch of different stuff. So just about every different type of animal shows up. 2, well, not really. Actually, it's 7 of things like reptiles and stuff like amphibians and those kind of things. 7. There's animals all over this boat. This boat, if you believe this stupid crap, is just packed full of animals that have all come from all over, migrated 10,000 miles to come see Noah with their mate. Okay. Now we're past the silly part into the rain part. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights, right? That rain... That incredible amount of rain managed to cover Mount Ararat for a year. Noah wasn't on that boat for 40 days and 40 nights, my friends. No, Noah was on that boat for 1 year. If you can imagine such a ridiculous notion. Which means that the water had to have covered the highest peaks on Earth. But let's just use Mount Ararat because that's where he landed. Mount Ararat, I believe... something like 22,000 feet. 22,000 feet. That means that rain that came down for 40 days and 40 nights, it's something like 10 feet a minute in order to cover Mount Ararat in that amount of time. Excuse me just a second. It was, it's ludicrous that this much rain fell. But let's say it did. Let's say the rain did fall this kind of rate. Where did the water go? Where did it go? Is it sitting in the center of the earth right now? Now remember, there's 25,000 feet of water sitting on the planet that Noah's floating around in his big giant boat on. Okay, where did the water go? Did it evaporate? Because you couldn't put that kind of water, even in its evaporated vapor form, into the troposphere. Can't be done. It didn't slip into the earth. The oceans were already where the oceans were. I mean, there's enough cities mentioned in the New Testament or the Old Testament at that point where they can pinpoint that these places are about where they were previously. Nothing's really changed. So, is the Noah story just a big explanation as to why we have rainbows? Some fantastic story that some father told some son at one point and it just kind of went on and on and on? I think so. But not Mike Huckabee. He's a biblical literalist. Now, you can believe, to understand the Noah story, all you have to do is do a little research. Now, Christians, especially biblical literalist type Christians, they don't like to do a lot of research. The more research they do, the more they find out that their religion's a bunch of crap, that the things that they believe can't possibly be true. But if you understand what ancient Jews thought, and that their religion is a combination of, these two tribes coming together, Judah, Israel coming together, and that it is an evolution from the Zoroastrian religion with Ahura Mazda as the god, then you'll have a better understanding. Now, I went to Christian school for, a long time. I've read the Bible through 3 times in its entirety, the New Testament probably 7, certainly bits and pieces of it many, many, many more times. I know some good stuff. I'm by no means a theologian. I wouldn't spend that much time on this nonsense. But every once in a while, I get in my jags learning new stuff about Christianity. So what the old-timey Jews thought was that essentially water is space. Now try to imagine. These people don't understand science. They don't understand what's going on. They're living on the side of the Mediterranean Ocean, which is rather blue, sea. Not, in fact, an ocean. It's about as blue as the sky is. From what they can tell, the sea is the sky. In Genesis, you sort of get an understanding that God, the Father, blew in matter, mater, out of the void, blew his life force into it and created this sort of bubble. The way they saw it is, here's where space starts. This is, this water, the shoreline, this is the sky. It's up there, see, sky, water, same stuff. They didn't really understand celestial bodies and those kind of things. They didn't really get that, there could be people living on those other planets and things. They didn't have that kind of understanding. The way they just understood is, the world was a big bubble of air that God blew into it. It makes perfectly good sense that those people would think, wow, this towering bubble of water could just cave in. We understand now that, in fact, space is space and water is water, and they are not the same thing, that the things above us are not the same things as water on this planet. But they didn't understand that at the time. They believed that water could fall in on them. It was a fear of theirs. Whereas now we don't even understand that fear. So to believe this myth from 4,000 years ago, as far as I'm concerned, is an abdication of good sense. And this is not a man that I would want running this country. Not to mention he's a crappy Republican. Supposedly he's a conservative, but he raised taxes more than Clinton did in Arkansas. As far as I'm concerned, Clinton's a better Republican than Bush is, as a matter of fact. I just, as far as these religious nuts and people like Romney saying that you must have faith to have freedom, you have to have faith to have freedom. Look, I believe in God. I do. But I certainly wouldn't not vote for somebody because they didn't have some kind of religious faith. And for them to be using that as a crutch on which they run, look, I want to talk about your policies. I want to talk about what you would do in the office of president, not about your religion. And I don't care how many kids you have or what your wife looks like. It doesn't matter. This is a bunch of crap that these people keep on feeding out to us. Why do they feed it? Well, because it works, ladies and gentlemen. They're not doing it because they want to avoid talking about the issues. They know the issues bore the crap out of people. Which sort of leads me to this conundrum. I believe that everybody has the right to run their own life. I believe that they're the best people qualified to run their own life. But when we get to this voting thing, then, well, the majority of people voted in George Bush. And therefore, those people sort of are running my life with their guy. They put their guy in charge, and, he's prosecuting this war poorly. It's not actually a war. It's a police thing now. The war's been over a long time. But their man is putting his policies on me. So they are forcing down my throat their guy, because more of them voted for him than voted for the other jerk. I didn't vote for either of them, so I don't feel responsible for them, but, what are you going to do? When you take these people who know more about Britney Spears than they do about Dick Cheney, and then you give them the right to vote, you say, go ahead, make decisions for people. And they do make those decisions. Now, I'm not saying that everybody who voted for George Bush is a dum-dum. I'm not. I'm just saying that a lot of people that voted for George Bush are dum-dums. I think George Bush is a good man. I don't care if he's a good man or not. I don't care if he brushes his teeth every day. I don't care. These things don't matter to me. What I care is how much government is he going to push down my throat. What is he going to force me to do? And he's going to force me to do quite a bit. Pay for his little war over there and stuff. And I don't want to. So, these people make their decisions for me. That's not right. The more decisions I get to make for myself, the better. So, if these people are dumb, should they really be making decisions for themselves? This is sort of the never-ending cycle of it all. All I can tell you is what works best, what this country's founded on, is freedom and liberty. Now, people are going to make mistakes in their lives. I am living proof that people are going to make mistakes in their lives. But all in all, their lives are going to be better if they get to make the decisions in them. So let me go on with my critiques of the presidential candidates. Who have I torn up so far? Oh yes, Huckabee and Romney. McCain. I got a little thing here on him. He says, Iran remains a threat. Now this is after we found out that Iran doesn't have a nuclear program. Just in case you haven't been paying attention, Iran does not have a nuclear program. We do not have to go bomb Iran, as much as George Bush would love to do that, and as much as John McCain would love to go do it. John McCain just wants to bomb a bunch of Muslim people. He doesn't care who they are. We just need to give him some Muslim people to kill. That's what we should do. Rig up that little weird arm of his and let him jab Muslim people with it. Because he just wants to kill them. Poor old guy. He did some great things, I'm sure, for this country. Spent some time in a POW camp. I would have never wanted to go through anything like that. But warmongers, that's all I can say. People that want war. Dwight D. Eisenhower, a great Republican president, warned us about the military-industrial complex. Warned us about the military-industrial complex. Said, look, the military-industrial complex wants nothing more to fight a perpetual war because it's good for the people that produce missiles and tanks and airplanes and boots and fatigues and even pencils and pens. It's good for them. If they aren't fighting a war, they aren't producing missiles and tanks and airplanes and boats and whatever it is that they need. He warned us that they will try to get us to fight a perpetual war, endless war. And that's what we're doing. It's one war after another. Yay, America, go, go, kill whatever kind of brown people are out there. And the American people just kind of like their football teams. They want the United States military to go in. Now, at some point or another, they get sick of it, which is what's happened with this conflict. So we're sick of taking care of the Iraqis. It seems like it should be over as far as we're concerned. We've spent more on this than we did on World War II, Vietnam, any other conflict ever. But it just keeps on dragging on because, well, now we've given the military-industrial complex the ability, the free rein to do whatever they want over there. And they've squandered our money. They've wasted it. They've killed untold tens of thousands of people. Killed them. We've gone into their country and made decisions for them. We certainly wouldn't want them doing the same thing. John McCain, bad candidate. I'm sorry. I like the way he brings the sort of the Republicans and the Democrats together and all that stuff. Bad candidate. Giuliani, he married his cousin. He been divorced 3 times. He's pro-abortion. He's not going to mobilize the Republican base. That's not going to happen. You're not going to get the Republicans out to vote. As a matter of fact, you don't have any candidates running that are from any states of any consequence. Yes, if you want to win as a Republican, you have to be pretty much from one of 2 places, from Texas or California. You have to be. If you're not from one of those places, you know, there's enough dumb people voting that they'll say, this candidate's from Texas and I'm from Texas, so I'll vote for him. Yay, candidate. Yay, George Bush. You know, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's just. I'm not saying it's good. But you have to carry one of, you know, the 4 or 5 major electoral states out there. Florida, red state. It's already in the mix. Texas can go either way. It's getting more and more red all the time. California's getting bluer and bluer all the time. But you have to have one of those major states with those electorals, and the only Republican from one of those 2 states currently running is Ron Paul. He's the only one that wants to get us out of this war. He's one of 2 that's a military veteran, him and John McCain. He's the only one that really wants to do something about taxes. I mean, Mitt Romney doesn't want to do something about taxes. He talks about how he wants to lower taxes, but taxes on corporations went up in Massachusetts under him. Well, who do you think pays corporate taxes? Do you think that the CEO takes a cut in pay because the corporate taxes went up? Well, no, sirree, it doesn't. Let's say the taxes go up on Walmart. Walmart goes out of business if they don't make a profit. If they don't, so they have to make a profit. So the taxes go up on everybody who spends money at Walmart. Well, then those people are spending more money, so they go up on. So then their local business that employs them has to pay them a little more to be able to pay for the things that they're buying. So essentially, it just gets spread out again. Taxes on corporations are taxes on us all because we all work for corporations. We all buy things from corporations. You can't just tax a business. Oh, I know that multinational corporations are poisoning our water and ruining the world. No, they're not. Well, maybe some of them are, but going after them all is just going after us. What we should do to corporations, the problem with corporations is that they're a legally protected entity. Because somehow the government creates a corporation out of thin air. Well, they haven't created anything. What they've done is they've given legal protection to the people that own a business. Now, if I own a sole proprietorship and I come work for you and I do something for you and I screw it up, I am responsible for it. Now, if I own a corporation, which is just me, and I go and I do something for you at your house and I screw it up, well, I'm not personally responsible for that screw up. My corporation is, which is a file folder somewhere in Concord. Corporations are just government protectionism. That's what's wrong with corporations. We don't need to tax them that way. We don't need to raise taxes on them. Mitt Romney, Mr. Low Tax Mitt Romney, you know, he just spread the taxes around. He hid them because he's a businessman. He understands this. Yeah. Ron Paul wants to lower taxes for us all. Let me read the Sentinel article here on Mr. Paul. Candidate says government too big and intrusive. Ron Paul says the United States shouldn't police the world. Hear, hear. That the cost of American policy is leading the country toward insolvency, if it isn't already there. Paul is running for the nation's highest office, hoping to reduce the government's power, he says. 20 years ago, Paul was the presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party, which advocates personal responsibility while opposing government intrusion into our American lives. Today, the Republican congressman from Texas, 10 terms. 10 terms. This is a guy who's very electable. Is once again running for president, centering his campaign around the less federal involvement both in America and around the world. Paul spoke Monday in the appearances at the People's Linen Service in Keene and Keene State College, describing his stance. He's also at Lindy's Diner, best cheeseburger in Keene, New Hampshire. Say hi to Nancy when you go. She's a nice lady. Describing his stances on the war in Iraq and education, detailing why the U.S. government shouldn't be involved in either. That's right. He doesn't believe the United States government should be involved in education. All you have to do is look at the creation of the Department of Education back in post-World War II. And the United States, like it or not, whatever your experience is with the Department of Education on a federal level, Title I and all that stuff, good or bad, and I'm sure that they have some good programs, I'm sure they've done some good things. But our rankings on a international basis have gone down, 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 down. Post-World War II, we were the #1 educated kids in the world. Now we're in the 50s. And those are just the facts. Look, draw whatever conclusions you want. I would recommend that you vote for Ron Paul if you're a Republican. If you're undecided, I would recommend that you vote for Ron Paul. Even if you're thinking that the Democrats are the way to go this year, I still recommend you vote for Ron Paul because you'll likely vote for whatever, if you're believing the Democrats are the right way to go, you'll likely vote for whatever Democrat's out there anyway. It doesn't matter if it's Hillary or Mr. Beautiful Hair or the guy with the white teeth. You know, it doesn't matter which Democrat it is. It's just another Democrat. They are all saying the same thing, except for Edwards, who wants to bring back the draft, for God's sake. So vote for Ron Paul. That way you have the least offensive Republican running against your guy or gal or whatever they are, your person. And win or lose, we get out of Iraq. Not that Hillary Clinton really wants to get us out of Iraq, because she doesn't. She still wants to leave a contingency of troops there to educate and protect the embassy, which is, of course, exactly what we were doing in Vietnam for 13 years or whatever we were there. Either way, my name is Mark Edgington. Please write me. Send me an email at mark@freekeene.com. Listen to my radio show, Free Talk Live. It's on WKBK for 7 p.m. on Saturday, 7 to 10. And have a good week.
Wow, man, you kicked ass tonight.
Do you think so?
Yeah, very extemporaneous, very good.